My name is Hannah, and this is my beauty budget. It's time for another video about new makeup releases, everybody's favorite time. I'm excited to talk about it because there is a train. I've spotted a train. New makeup releases, train spotting the house down boots. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about this eyeshadow train trend that I feel I have perceived, and then there are a couple of other things that I want to talk about. As always, I only talk about the things that interest me, the things about which I feel like I have something to say that might matter to someone. I'm just going to talk about what I think is interesting in one way or another. Before we get into the meat of the video, this is one of the garments that was in that PR package that I opened from YesStyle, and I promised that I would talk about it more thoroughly in the video in which I first wore it. So I'm wearing it in this video, but I haven't really worn it. I haven't worn it outside of the house and felt my oats. I feel like for me, the jury is actually still out on whether or not I will keep it, because I've determined that it is designed to be oversized in a really cute way. And in the pictures of the models on the website, it is oversized, like really oversized. It looks so cute because I love a super oversized sweater, like one that comes all the way down past my butt and like down over my arms, and I just feel like I'm swimming in it. I'm all about that life. So I thought that that is what it would be like, and on me it has that styling, but it's like for somebody who's like half as big as I am. So on me, like the sleeves don't come down to cover my wrists, and the length hits right at the hip instead of covering my butt. So I feel like there's something a little awkward about that. Like it's oversized, but it's too small. And I was firstly considering giving it away to my cousin for Christmas because she is more petite than I am and she looks beautiful in colors like this. But then when I put it on for this video, I really started to feel the manifestation of my vision when I picked this color, because I feel like this is a color that can lean kind of Lands' End catalog in the 90s, like teal as one of three options, or it can lean very editorial if you do something like what I've done today, pairing it with like a fluorescent red lip and like a sort of rubbed in smoky, maybe I was just crying because spoiler alert, I was, cranberry eye, and then the earring comes down over the height of the turtleneck because it's pulled up so high, and there's something about that. So I am really feeling it right now, which means I might not give it away to my cousin, but don't worry, I'll get her something amazing. This is just to say that the jury is still out on this sweater, but you will be able to observe it in action for the rest of the video. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of that video. So the train, I can't decide what to call the eyeshadow train that I've observed. I want to call it, the boring name for it, my original name for it that I first thought of was like the dusk train or the sunset train, but I feel like it's really like the red and purple train, but it's really kind of like the Christmas colors plus purple. Let's call it the Christmas X purple train. The Christmas X purple train has a lot of cars on it right now, and when I started looking through makeup releases since my last video about new makeup releases, that really stuck out to me in the eyeshadow realm. And it is a color story that I like. Like it's a train I'm on, especially when there are a bunch of like rich shimmers and duochromes, because I feel like duochromes that incorporate red and purple or red or purple really kind of get me going. So I feel attracted to all of these palettes, and it's not, I don't know if I can really say that it's another wanting everything, buying nothing situation, but at least it's a week where I'm like visually intrigued by everything. I'm theoretically intrigued by everything. The reality is that, and I guess I should have said this in the intro, I am experiencing kind of like a makeup fatigue situation. Weirdly, actually, I am putting together a video that's been highly requested that's like makeup that's on my Christmas wish list, like wish list makeup, or what makeup would I like to receive as a gift. I do have a list and I am going to make a video about it, but when it's coming down to actually sharing with my family the list of items that I actually concretely would like to receive as Christmas gifts, there isn't any makeup on that list. And I have been coming up with theories as to why that is. I'll be talking about those theories more in that video, but this is just to say that I feel kind of weary of, especially eyeshadow right now, like every palette that I'm about to mention even though I kind of love all of them and I theoretically would love to play with any of them, and some of them I have really serious, serious reasons for being attracted to or for wanting. All of them, when I look at them, I'm like, Hannah, just you can just use what you already own to do anything you would do with that. And I feel like that's probably true of almost any eyeshadow palette at this point, forever. Anyway, let me pull out the palette that I do have that I feel like belongs on or is a member of the Christmas X Purple train so that you and I can kind of be on the same page with what I'm talking about. This is the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette, and I actually got this as a piece of PR when I was at BeautyCon from the people at the Huda Beauty booth. And so when I say Christmas, what I'm talking about are these reds. This one leans a bit orange. Some of them lean a bit grungier or greener. Some of them lean kind of into the metallics and golds. And I feel like some of them kind of lean into the yellows, but really all of them are grounded by this kind of like holiday red feeling. And then it's mixed with purple. So you get this dusky, sunsetty feeling, aptly named in this case. And I feel like it's also a trend in a lot of cases that there are like duochrome sort of, and there's sort of a gold, almost like a greenish gold presence. But this one is particularly a good representation of what I mean when I say Christmas X purple, because there's this, it's literally a red glitter. Like it is a red glitter. I mean, I'm gonna go get my nails done tomorrow. We're entering December, and what I think I'm gonna do is to get like red glitter, because to me that's like the most Christmassy, the most festive thing that I can think of. And there is the eyeshadow version of that nail polish idea in this palette. If you took away the purples from this palette, I feel like that the redness and the red glitter would look very Christmas inspired, like very holiday. And the purple makes it look like something else. It makes it look a little bit more deserty, a little bit more dusky, just a little bit more, I don't know, like you want to sink your teeth into it, a little bit less kitschy. And I find it interesting that a year later, I think this was released like, well, maybe towards the beginning of 2018. This has been out for quite a while. So I don't think it's like a trend she started or something. I'm just saying that when I look at these palettes and I'm like, ooh, then I say to myself, Hannah, you have Huda Beauty Desert Dusk and you never reach for it. But much, much later, that whole idea is coming around again. It's being mobilized again. It's being foisted on us again at this holiday season. Let's move on to talking about the actual new releases, shall we? How long have we been filming? 10 minutes? How you doing? How's everyone doing out there? But it's okay. I have big plans to bust through the first part of this video because I'm just going to be saying this palette is like that palette too. It's on the train. And the first one is the Kylie palette. This is very beautiful to me, and I've never wanted to buy Kylie cosmetics. I'm not a member of the Kylie train. Like I have no engagement as a fan in the Jenner Kardashian empire. And I've said this before, but I feel like at this point, maybe if I saw Kylie Jenner in public, I would recognize her, but that hasn't been true until very recently, and it still might not be true. And I still maintain that if you lined up 20 people next to each other who all looked like Kylie Jenner and she was there too, I wouldn't be able to identify her. Which is just to say that's how disengaged I am. And I feel like the fact that I've never wanted to buy anything from Kylie Cosmetics, even though some of it has been nice, is a testament to how many of her sales are riding on her celebrity. Because if you take, I mean, I'm just a lab sample of one, but I'm a person who has no investment in her celebrity, but I am a makeup lover and I am someone who loves to try new makeup. But without the investment in her celebrity, I have zero investment in her makeup brand. So take that as you will. I have no investment in this palette. I don't want to buy it, but I do think it's pretty. That bright matte orange red next to that glittery, glimmery lavender. That's Holiday X Purple, and it's giving me something that I really, really like. I like Holiday X Purple. I'm on the train. Then it's also got that kind of greeny gold in it. It's got those deep reds and burgundy. I mean, it's giving it to me. This is like the quintessential holiday palette that's making itself seem more exciting than a regular holiday palette because it has purple in it. The next one that I brought up, I think I'm even more interested in probably in theory, and it's the new release from Nabla, the Mystic palette. So it's not something that at first glance you would necessarily think or feel is holiday, but it's got those reds and those greenish golds. So it has like a slightly burgundy version of reds and a glimmery red and sort of like a brick red neutral matte. And then it's got these like greenish golds. So it's taking like the holiday colors of red and green and it's pushing each one a little bit off center in terms of its tone balance, but the gist is still there. But then to make it even less identifiable, but then to make it even less identifiable, but then to make it even less identifiable as a holiday palette, there are these beautiful purples in it. And they really go together. It's like they push up against each other and they go together. When I say they, I mean the holiday colors and the purple. And it really works. It's selling itself to me. It reminds me, I think a lot of people have said this, but it reminds me a lot of the most recent release from Pat McGrath. Not the one that was like exclusive to Selfridges and all of that jazz, but the cool one, the interesting one, the one with the purple and the khaki in it. It's kind of giving me that, but to me it's even a little bit more riding on like subconscious holiday vibes. And the reason they're subconscious is because those purples are pushing them into our subconscious. But to me, this is definitely like a muted, glimmery holiday X purple. And I really love the fact that this is almost all shimmers. I feel like of all the things I'm going to talk about today, this is probably the one that I would in theory most like to try. And it is in theory on my makeup like holiday wish list, gift guide for myself list, but I'm not going to buy it. And I think probably no one is going to buy it for me. So I'm not even like shedding half a tear over that because again, these days I'm just feeling like just use what you own, Hannah. Good grief. But gosh, it's beautiful. So this one is maybe my only reach, but when I thought of this train and then I started scouring recent releases for eyeshadow palettes that fit, I felt like the KKW X Mario new release fit color-wise because it is it's a little bit less. Remember when I was saying that I ended up deciding to call this train Holiday X Purple, but I was originally considering calling it like Sunset dusky vibes, like the sun is setting over the steely gray mountains type of situation. And so there's like red and there's purple and they're both contradictory and complementary. And then there's also like these earthy colors like green and gold and brown because the horizon is there as well. If I had leaned into that instead of leaning into the Holiday X Purple way of discussing this train, it would be much more apparent why KKW X Mario, this palette, is on the train. It does have like a rusty red. It's very warm toned. It's got some of that yellow, which is more like sunsetty or sunrisey and a little bit less like the holiday. But those holiday palettes, they do have those like yellowish greens or those glimmery yellows or those golds, those like shining, sparkling golds. And this yellow, even though it's matte, is kind of a golden yellow. And then there is a shimmery gold in the palette. So it's got that rusty red, it's got that shimmery gold, it's got that shimmery red. It definitely has like a holiday presence if you were to cover up the blue, which is giving us that cool toned pop that I feel like the purple is giving us in the other palettes. That blue is what gives it that feeling of being exciting beyond just another warm toned palette. And that's what the purple is doing in the Holiday X Purple train cars. Oh, this is another one that, well, it kind of does have purple. So it's the House Beauty. Lady Gaga released an eyeshadow palette. And it's the same. It's very sunsetty, very sunset vibes. It's not pushing as much the holiday vibes, although it does have a bunch of reds in it. And it's got some shimmery shades in it. And then it's got a reddish purple. And then it's got kind of like a steely black that looks cool toned in the pictures. Like it looks a little bit like shadowed, even though I think it's either a deep gray or a black. So this is another one that isn't as explicitly a member of the train, but I feel like is kind of trying to push the same button where it's like you've got all of your warm toned neutrals that make you feel safe. You've got some reds that make you feel like it's holiday. And then you've got something like leaning into purple or something kind of leaning into cool tone to make it feel edgy, to make it feel fresh, and to make it feel like it's not a replica of a bunch of palettes that you already own, even though it kind of is. ColourPop is reinventing the Christmas X holiday train on a weekly and sometimes bi-weekly basis, it seems like these days. I'm going to put up on the screen a picture of 3 palettes and 9 Super Shock shadows, and I feel like all of them are on this train. It is the same thing 3 times over, and the Super Shock shadows, if you like look at that group of Super Shocks as its own palette, that is the same thing again. So it's the same thing 4 times over, but just with the dial turned a little bit in this direction or a little bit of that direction in terms of making it more pink or making it more warm or making it more orange. Or, I mean, it's the same thing. All of these are red-based palettes with some really rich reds that ground it again in the season, but an insertion of some kind of purple, or in some case like a plumminess or a reddish purple, but some kind of purple leaning shadow to make it feel more contemporary and dynamic and to make it feel like something you don't already own. ColourPop is like on this train in a major way. I'm also going to put up a picture of, at this moment as I'm recording this, I think their newest announcement or their newest release, which is like a pre-prepared, a pre-curated palette of single shadows. Ugh, my camera battery died in the very middle of my sentence, shocking me. I was like, who am I? What am I doing? Then I changed the battery, and then I realized my hair was looking kind of flat, so I zhuzhed it up. So we've got a new battery, we've got zhuzhed up hair. And I was saying that this pre-curated palette from ColourPop is, to me, the very definition of Holiday X purple. In fact, it looks so much like the Huda Beauty. Look at that. It's honestly, it's like they duped it. It's like they tried to dupe it. Although no, because they don't have like the shiny red, but this is what we call duping the vibes, my friends. I mean, they definitely did. And it's because this is what's very on trend right now. It's like a micro trend, which is what I'm talking about when I say like a train right now. Like that, I mean, I think that everyone, you understand, you're smart, you get it. That's what I'm talking about. It's like a little micro trend that's chugging into the station right now. And this is, to me, like the quintessential version of that. And it makes sense because ColourPop, with this, where they're just like taking a bunch of singles that pre-exist and putting them into a palette and selling it as a palette, it's really easy for them to get micro trends spot on because it only takes someone one day to put this together. So they just, somebody has my job at ColourPop. They're just sitting there and trying to figure out which train is chugging into the station, and then they're like, choo choo, let's get on that train just by putting a bunch of our singles together in a palette and selling that. So this one, really, I had started thinking about this, and then I saw this one and I was like, oh yeah, Hannah, you're right. That's all I've got in terms of the train. And my point in doing this, partly it's just to talk about new releases and have a grand old time and be excited about spotting similarities between things and to talk about color, which is my favorite thing. But I also kind of want to point out to you that when it comes to that color story, if you have one, you have them all. Like if you want to buy one of those things, then do what you want, but just buy one. Like don't go buying both the Kylie palette and the one from ColourPop because they're the same thing. Like it's the same train. You only really need one. If you already have Huda Beauty Desert Dusk, or if you wanted it back in the day and you ended up buying something else with a similar color story instead, then you don't need any of these to do any of the looks that you would do with them. And the other thing is red and purple, that's not that crazy of an idea. Like I feel like it's a situation where the train's going to be gone before we know it, and the desire for this color story will probably leave us and then return to us and then leave us and then return to us again. And it might not be worth trying to buy a whole palette, like something like this or something like that. You probably have a palette that has some really good reds in it, and you probably have a palette that has some really good purples in it. And even if they don't happen to be together in the same palette, it really doesn't take much to combine to get Holiday X purple. Just you have Holiday somewhere and you have purple somewhere. You can be the one who X's them together on your own. I feel like all you need is like one, you need some matte reddish oranges, which good God, we all have. And then one really special sort of duochrome purple based shade. And you can get all of the looks that all of these palettes are promising to us. So let's move into talking about some releases that I feel like it's like an adjacent train. It's like a little tram. The first thing that I want to talk about is the new release from M Cosmetics, which is so fascinating to me because I feel like M Cosmetics is hitting it out of the park on all counts all the time. Like everything they release is amazing. All of the formulas I've tried from them are amazing. I haven't tried everything, but I consistently want to. Like I'm really curious about everything that they make, and I feel like the reviews are fantastic. They also are judicious about what they release and when they release it. They're not too insane. They're not trying to be like ColourPop or ABH. They're just chilling and trying to release good and intriguing makeup with original colors. And this release feels a little bit off to me. And I'm curious to see the reviews start rolling out. I haven't seen anyone review this online, and I haven't seen swatches. But I wonder if maybe, and maybe I'm being like overly charitable, but I wonder if the only thing that has gone wrong is that they either failed to capture the qualities of these eyeshadows on camera and in their marketing, or they produced a palette that is kind of impossible to capture in marketing. And I think the two examples, well, what are some examples that I want to give? Okay, so here's a really good example. Remember when Urban Decay Naked Honey was being teased? The Naked Honey palette, it looked so flat and terrible in all of Urban Decay's PR pictures. And they started teasing pictures of the palette for like a month and a half before it was released. And everybody just slandered it. Everyone was like, this looks so terrible. What are they thinking of? This is the most boring thing I've ever seen. Who would want that? Like people were just like who came up with that? Who asked for this? Like that's what we were all asking. Then when the palette came out and people started playing with it and swatching it and showing it in videos and showing it on Instagram, it turned out that it's really beautiful. Like that's a palette that I would love to get my hands on at some point. Not enough to buy it or to put it on a wish list or something, but it became patently clear when we started seeing images of the actual palette that they had actually done a beautiful job, and that there was a lot of texture diversity and there was a lot more color diversity than we thought, and that the surface quality of the shadows was actually very yummy. And for whatever reason, they completely failed to capture that in the marketing imagery. So the imagery here, it kind of reminds me of that. And I wonder if that is what has gone wrong. The other example I want to give is an example of a company that does it right, which is Rowan. So Rowan makes these cream shadows with a lot of texture, and they are so delicious and yummy and I mean, you guys know I'm like a Rowan actual super fangirl. So I really, really love the texture of these. And part of what ever sold it to me and caused me to buy this to begin with, to test it out, to find out that I love them, is the imagery. So they do an unbelievable job in their imagery capturing the texture and the glimmer and the way that the shadows shift in different lights, the way it looks on the eyes. They've really worked to get the feeling of the product, like the physical feeling of the product, into the imagery. I feel like M Cosmetics, no matter what is going on with this palette, if it's boring or not boring in real life, no matter what is going on, they have failed to do that. They've just failed to capture it. They're hoping that people will buy it just based on the idea of it, because I feel like this picture might as well be an illustration. I have no idea by looking at it what the shadows are like, what the looks would be like that I get with it. And I've looked and looked and looked all over social media, and I can't really find anything that indicates that. In my mind, I have like this fantasy of these shadows actually being like really amazing and textured and creamy and multidimensional, and the mattes being really buttery. And then in my mind, I also have this sort of visualization of a letdown where they're just like, it's just like a Wet n Wild quad or something. Or, you know, some Wet n Wild quads are really great, but you know what I mean? It would be disappointing to get this and for it to just feel like that, like one of the newly formulated Wet n Wild quads, which I find disappointing. I have no idea. Nobody has any idea. And I wish that the marketing about this were a little more texturally explicit. Maybe if I'm unlikely to ever do merch, but I do like thinking about, sort of as a silly exercise, like what I would put on my merch if I had it. Texturally explicit. What do you think? Anyway, this was a release that I felt myself wanting to want, and that so far I have been extremely let down by. But the only thing I've seen of it is the imagery. I haven't seen any reviews or anything. So I'm just being let down by what they're trying to sell to me. Oh, interesting. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the Bare Necessities palette from ColourPop. And I put it in this section of the video because I originally was like, it's not on the Christmas X purple train. And it really isn't on the Christmas X purple train, but it is kind of on the sunsetty dusky train. I mean, it does look like a slightly more nudified version of Huda Beauty Desert Dusk in a weird abstract way. I just wanted to bring this up because it's so beautiful, and in an alternate universe where I didn't have any eyeshadow, or if I was just starting out with makeup or something, I'd buy this. It's so pretty, and I love ColourPop shadows. I really do. They're some of my favorites, especially the mattes. They're some of my all-time favorite mattes. I just think this looks so, so pretty. I think it's a little bit unfortunate that they're making these huge palettes. I feel like this, you could easily lose like an entire row off the side and an entire row off the bottom, and it would become much more attractive to more people, I think. Unfortunately, that's how I feel. If I ever were to buy this, I think I would depot it, or I would pop the pans out and I would use them all as singles. At this point in my life, I don't need to do that. I have enough singles in these kind of neutral color stories, but gosh, I think it's really, really pretty, and I like seeing it, and I like seeing the swatches, and I like looking at the packaging, and I'm drawn to this release. My spirit is drawn to this release, even though I'm in no way desirous of having it in my home. Okay, here's a palette, finally, that is in no way, shape, or form on the Christmas X Purple train and could never be mistaken for a deserty or dusky palette. And it is the most newly released palette, I think, as I sit here talking. And I've been tagged in it a bunch of times on Instagram, which is so cute. Thank you guys so much for tagging me. It is the new Linda Hallberg palette. So they're calling it the Enchanted Mysteries palette. It's got a sparkly green, a sparkly black. That's why I got all the tags, because it's got this rich, sparkly, metallic black. And it's got a beautiful bronzy gold and a really shimmery, whitish silver. Very cool, very kind of reptilian. I love the textures, and it's not really my color story. It's not really. I feel like the icy metallic white, that's a nice accent color for me, but it doesn't really float my boat. And then putting together the warm gold with like the green and black, for me, it doesn't make me sit up straight in my chair. But that black is really beautiful. The whole thing is really beautiful. It fits with her aesthetic. It fits with her line. It looks beautifully executed, and I'm very happy for the people for whom this is the perfect release. I'm happy to see it, and I think it's pretty. I just know myself well enough to not try to drum up excitement for something that isn't naturally there. Like, why would I do that? And this, it's just, I don't know. It's so, so, so pretty and cool. It just isn't me enough for me to want to buy it or to put it on my Christmas wish list. Oh, I put this picture of Lady Gaga up here because I love her eyeshadow in this. And I also like the feeling of the eyeshadow. It's like super editorial glamour. I feel like there's a disconnect between this image and the feeling and the way that I feel, and I think a lot of people feel about the release in general, about Haus Laboratories, which I've never, I mean, after the beginning, I've never even really looked at the release, like what she's releasing or what the releases are. And the eyeshadow palette, for all that it's on the dusky Christmas X Purple Desert train, is pretty boring. I mean, you know, it doesn't have texture in it. It really doesn't. This look that she has on is all about dynamic texture, and I just haven't really seen that. I mean, I know she has like those liquid products and liquid eyeliners and all this stuff, but I haven't really seen dynamic texture presented to me in an exciting way from her. So I thought that was interesting. I thought it was worth mentioning, and I did kind of want to give a nod to the aesthetic of the makeup that's shown in this picture, even though it doesn't then make me want to run out and buy her products. I don't know. It will be interesting to see if it evolves at all or how soon it dies, Haus Laboratories. I just feel like it's kind of flopping. Oh, I put it in here to talk about the Jaclyn Cosmetics highlighter release, but I feel kind of, now that the moment has arrived, I feel a little bit reluctant to say anything because I just don't want to get beaten up and bullied. And I feel like no matter what I say, people will do that. If I'm not mean enough, people will say cast aspersions, and if I'm even in the slightest shady, people will cast aspersions. And at this point in my little life, it's like it's not worth it. I don't know, maybe my skin isn't growing thick enough to keep up with my channel or something, but maybe it's just the time of year or the time that I happen to be having these couple of months, but I just don't really want to go there. Like, I don't have it in me to process mean stuff right now. So I think what I'll say about this is just that it's a shame that this wasn't her first release. That's kind of how I feel. But I don't know. I mean, if this release goes well, just in terms of like how the products are received and how the shipping is handled and everything on the back end, if it goes well and then we continue to say it's a shame that it wasn't the first release, well, it may be that if it had been, there would have been things that went wrong on the back end because there wasn't enough fear in the heart of Jaclyn Hill and her team to get them to like mobilize enough to double check everything and make sure that everything was on the up and up, which is clearly what didn't happen. I mean, no matter what happened the first time around, there's a lot we don't know, but I think that no matter what actually did happen, what we can safely say is that there wasn't enough double checking on the back end. Like, somebody dropped the ball when it came to just making sure that the makeup that was being sent out was in good condition. I feel like with this release, everything that gets sent out will likely be in good condition because I think that they probably learned their lesson. And I already can hear the voices of people being like, no, I'll never trust her again, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to buy anything from this release. I'm not saying that I trust Jaclyn Hill or that I think that her products going forward will probably be amazing, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying that I will be very surprised if it transpires that a bunch of balls were dropped on the back end again with this release, just because, say what you will, but the repercussions of that happening the first time around were dire. And we all know that she's being examined now with a fine-tooth comb, and that everything she sends out to customers will be examined with a fine-toothed comb in the way that it never would have been if that initial debacle hadn't gone down the way it did. I don't feel excited by the idea of these highlighters and highlighting products, and I think that it's hard for me at this point to disentangle my overall makeup fatigue and my general feeling that I already have so many pretty highlighters, to disentangle that from my disinterest in what Jaclyn Hill releases, given how much drama there's been surrounding it. So I'm not really sure why I feel so lukewarm towards these products kind of in particular. I don't know, like a highlighting palette with 4 different shades, I'm kind of like, why? Because even if all 4 shades work for you, one is going to be the best. So why 4? That's just like me leaning into my fewer better thingsism over here, but that's kind of how I feel about that. And then with the rest of them, it's like, I don't powder my face, so even an illuminating powder doesn't appeal to me that much. And those really blinding highlighters in a little jar, to me, that's just like a mess waiting to happen. I'm not really interested in loose highlighters. All things being equal, I feel like none of these products really call my name, and I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm just gonna leave it there in terms of Jaclyn Cosmetics. I'm a little bit more interested at this point in talking about the release itself, the product itself, than I am in talking about all of the drama and the way that things have been handled. And I think that she could have released a highlighter that made me really want to buy it, and that made me really sorry that I'm not really that interested in buying from Jaclyn Cosmetics right now, but she didn't. She released a couple of products that, for various reasons, it's easy for me to pass on. I also want to touch briefly on this all gold stuff released from Fenty. It's like this super gold powder highlight, which again, like I feel wary of that kind of product, but it looks so pretty. Super gold gloss bomb and super gold like lip gloss and some sort of sparkly, maybe it's like a liquid eyeliner or something. I love this because it's so editorial and it's leaning into the idea of monochromatic looks. And I just really like that. I like that Fenty is willing to take these sort of color statement risks and glamour risks. I just think all around it's just fun to watch and so pretty. I thought I would touch briefly on the Good Molecules silicone-free priming moisturizer because they sent it to me. If this were just a regular like do I want it video, I would say no, because priming moisturizer doesn't make sense in my routine. Because if it's a primer, to me that means that makeup makes direct contact with it and it makes makeup look better on your skin. It primes your skin for makeup. But if it's a moisturizer, to me it goes underneath sunscreen. So this product is specifically designed to go underneath sunscreen. It says it like right on the back. When using sunscreen, let priming moisturizer fully absorb before applying, suitable for daily use. So they're billing it as a primer, but it's supposed to go under sunscreen, and that doesn't make sense to me, because then the sunscreen is the thing on top of your skin and the makeup is making contact with the sunscreen. So that tells me that this is just a moisturizer. For daytime, it's just a moisturizer that has nice smoothing properties, that's lightweight, that's silky. I would never be interested in buying it for myself, because to me, priming moisturizer is like a contradiction in terms. What I will say is I have been using it pretty much every day since it arrived, which was maybe at least a week ago. And what I do is I use it before my sunscreen, or sometimes in the evenings, or like if I've just washed my face, just when I need to grab something light and hydrating to just put a layer on my skin. And it is a beautifully lightweight moisturizer. It's heavy enough to be occlusive, enough to feel like you've done something to your skin, something lasting in terms of hydration, but it's lightweight enough that you don't feel like it's sitting on your skin. It is a really beautiful product. I feel like priming moisturizer is like an advertising term that Glossier came up with, and it's never made sense to me. And I sort of feel like it's subtly encouraging people not to wear sunscreen, because it's like, put this on your face. It's a moisturizer and a primer, and so you put it on and you feel like you've just primed, and then you really want to go in with your makeup. So this caught my eye. It's the Hello Halo Blush Lighters from Wet n Wild, and it just caught my eye because a Wet n Wild highlighting blush, apricot in the middle, I say highlighting blush because that's what it is for me, it's very sheeny, is one of my all-time favorite blushes. And it's cool that they are branching out. I'm totally going to check these out the next time I'm in store. I'm going to peep them up close. And I think they're like $6. If there's one that looks really great to me, I might buy it literally just to try and review on my YouTube channel. I don't need more highlighters. I don't need more blushes. But I feel like my budget can take a hit of $7.49 in order for me to report back about this on my YouTube channel, because it's something that I kind of have a vested interest in finding out about firsthand. This release kind of got me, I guess, is what you could say. This little drugstore release. I'm following its future career with great interest. And then lastly, the other thing that kind of got me in terms of catching my attention, and it's actually not even the product itself, it's the picture of it on Trend Mood. Trend Mood posted this incredibly close-up textured picture of the collaboration between No Kill LA and ColourPop, which is a Super Shock highlighter. So it's this Super Shock highlighter with a paw stamped into it, and all the pictures look amazing. The picture that's really up close with the paw, you can see it kind of cracking, you could see it glimmering. Oh my gosh, it's so, I looked at it, I've looked at it like 100 times, and I'm like, it's so pretty. And then the next picture, no, not the next one, the like middle picture of you're scrolling through on Trend Mood, where she shows the close-up on her finger, and you can see it glittering multicolor in the background. You can see it shining sort of peach with rainbow in it on her finger. These are the makeup pictures that try men's souls. I look at this and I'm like, I want that. And then I'm like, Hannah, it's just a creamy peach eyeshadow with a little bit of a rainbow shift. I definitely have stuff like that. I definitely don't need this. You guys, you're gonna be scandalized, but Joe came home. What do you have to say for yourself? He says he's not crying. He has something in his eye. I'm almost done. So in short, this is something that I mean, to say that I don't need it is a vast understatement, because not only do I have stuff that like is as delicious as this to touch and play with, but I have so many things that look as good or better than this when you actually put them on the eye. Like it's just ridiculous to think that I would need a thing like this right now. But well done, Trend Mood, for those pictures, and well done, ColourPop. I mean, it's just, they chose beautifully in terms of picking something neutral and universally appealing, and something with a little bit of extra drama that makes people like me who don't need it want it. And that is it. That is all I have to say about new releases. Those are all of the ones that have come out over the past couple of weeks since I last did a video of this type that made me want to talk about them. I did it. I talked about the Christmas X Purple train. I even talked about Jaclyn Hill, even though I'm quaking in my boots now over here. And I'm curious to see what you guys think. Let me know how you're feeling about these new releases in the comment section down below. I'm also really curious to know if anyone is experiencing the kind of makeup fatigue that I'm experiencing. I feel like there are things being released that would ordinarily ring my bell, and my bell is just, it's like my bell is missing its clapper. Also, before I go, I think I want to show Sadie on camera because she's sleeping over there and she looks so cute. I think what's happening is that I picked her up and she's continuing to sleep. I think she's, I think she's, I think she's, I think she's continuing to sleep right here. So, I don't know. There we go. That is it. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself this week so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.